Okay, we're on Shabbat, Perek Tet, Mishnah Gimel. Third Mishnah in the 9th chapter of Shabbat. We're on the third Mishnah of the Minayids. How do we know? Where do we have Asmachtot? From the Psukim for a different halachot. It says a Mishnah. Minayid, how do we know? The poletet shichvat zera b'yom hashlishi she tmeya. A woman who's poletet, the float means to expel. So a woman had intercourse, she had relations with her husband, and on the third day she expelled, she saw an emission of shichvat zera, of semen. Okay, so shichvat zera normally is tameh. That's the halacha, shichvat zera is metameh. So how do we know that even if she saw this emission on the third day after she had intercourse, it's already on the third day, she tmeya, how do you know that the shichvat zera is still considered shichvat zera? As long as the seed, halachot, has the ability to inseminate, she's still considered tameh. So how do we know she's tameya? Shnei Amar, as it says, hayu nechonim l'shloshet yamim. Be prepared l'shloshet yamim for 3 days. What is this talking about? This is actually from Shemot Perek Yud Tet, Shemot Yud Tet. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Bnei Israel, the Jewish people are at Har Sinai, and they're getting ready for Ma'amad Har Sinai. So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, "Vayam Hashem Moshe, lech el am, go to the nation, v'kidashtam hayom u'machar, sanctify yourselves today and tomorrow, v'chipsusim lotam, wash your clothes, i.e., take it to the mikveh. You have to be tahor. Everybody has to be tahor. So this is what's called Shloshet Yemei Hagbala, meaning God is telling people, be separate from your spouse. Do not have intercourse for the next 3 days. V'hayu nechonim layom hashlishi. Be ready against the third day. Ki bayom hashlishi yireid Hashem le'enei kol ha'am. On the third day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will come down al Har Sinai, on Har Sinai. And that's what the pasuk said. The Mishnah says, hayu nechonim layom hashlishi. Be ready for the third day. And from this, our Mishnah says, that's how we know shichvat zera is tameh. Now, of course, the Bartanura points out, if you haven't noticed, so you would say, hayu nechonim l'shloshet yamim. 1 second. On the third day, they're going to be tahor. Okay, so the Bartanura says the following. Hikpira katuv, the Torah was makpid, al tim'ei keri, on emissions. So that it shouldn't be tamei from emissions, but matan Torah. It's not only if a person has an emission outside of intercourse is also mitamei. The kaf vishan shloshet yamim. That's why they had to be separate for 3 days. They separated themselves. Okay. Below chashi b'aflitu achar kach b'yom revi. Fourth day is not important. It's not a problem. Demasriach, because the emission, the seminal fluid, it decomposes. Ve'eno ra'ui la'azriya, and it can no longer inseminate. What is the scientific information? I have no idea. It's not the issue. It's the way Chazal understood it. Okay, but the Bartanura says the following. Upsaka halacha, but the real halacha is shapoletet b'yom hashlishi tehora. If you are poletet on the third day, it's tehora. If you look at mikvaot, Perek Mishnah Gimel, we see, the Mishnah says explicitly, hapoletet zera b'yom hashlishi, on the third day. Tehora, Divrei Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So it's exactly the opposite of our Mishnah, which says b'yom hashlishi is tameah. So the Bartanura says, how's that possible? Okay, we paskin that it's tehora. How's it possible? Matnitin Mishnah beshtahi. Our Mishnah is a mistake. It's messed up. V'tani minayin lebedech v'shikav zera b'yom hashlishi. We learn Shnei Amar yu nechonim l'shloshet yamim. Meaning the proof in the pasuk that we saw, be ready for 3 days. U'shloshet yamim de'amar akra. The shloshet yamim, the 3 days. It says hainu the yom hashlishi. That's the third day. The b'yom shlishi na'afrasha nitna Torah. So basically, if you look at the pasuk, it says yu nechonim the yom hashlishi. Be ready for the third day. Ki b'yom hashlishi yireid Hashem. The third day, God will come down. Meaning, you separate, and on the third day you're tahor. And so that's actually a proof. We'll go back to mikvaot. It's a proof for Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Poletet zera b'yom hashlishi is tahora, because the Torah says specifically on the third day, God is coming down. So therefore, the Bartanura says our Mishnah is a meshabeshahi. The Mishnah says that he's tameya, it's a mistake. Or he says the other option is it's an opinion of the Rabbanan according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that's not accepted. L'halacha. Hayu nechonim l'shloshet yamim, on the third day means the third day is tahor, not tameh, as we've seen. Mishnah continues. Minayin shemer chitzina tamila b'yom hashlishi shechal liot b'Shabbat. How do you know there's a halacha? Halacha is not just that you wash the milah. If a child had a brit milah, he was circumcised on Thursday, and the next day is Friday. Shabbat is the third day. Okay, on Shabbat, how do you know? Not only you can wash it, of course you can wash it with cold water. Afilu b'chamin shuchmu b'Shabbat. Okay, that you're allowed to warm up the water. You can cook the water on Shabbat. Ta'af b'yom shlishi musukanu. We know that the third day is a day of danger, of physical danger, so therefore you can heat water in order to in order to, if it's Shabbat, in order to wash the wound. It says, and this is referring to, remember when the Shimon and Levi convinced all the people of Shechem to circumcise themselves. On the third day, that was the most painful day. And they were all killed out by Shimon and Levi. What can you do? Okay? So the Mishnah says, from there we understand that it's dangerous, that it could be physically harmful, it could be medically dangerous, and therefore you're allowed to mechalel Shabbat in order to heat up the water necessary to wash the wound. How do you know that they would tie? And this we learn we read about it in the Avodah of Yom Kippur. They would tie a lashon shazahorit, a red band, on the head of the Seir Mishtalech. Seir Mishtalech is the goat that was thrown over the cliff on Yom Kippur. There were two goats, and they were identical. We'll learn this in Yuma. One of them was Hashem, one of them was the Azazel. Azazel literally was thrown to hell. So the one that was thrown, the Azazel, was thrown over a cliff. So how do you know that they would tie a lashon shazahorit, a red band around it? And they would take half the red band, and half they would leave the Beit HaMikdash, and they would turn white. As it says, if your sins shall be red like shani, like crimson, they will become white as snow. And Chazal learned out from there, the Torah learned out from there, that when that they should have a sign, an actual symbol, that their sins should turn from red to white. So they would take half, and they would tie it onto they would take half of that band, tie it onto the seir, on the goat, and half of them they would leave in the Beit HaMikdash. And it would be a sign, leave in the Beit HaMikdash, hold on. Not in the Beit HaMikdash, the Kati says, Chatzio kasha bisela. He would tie it onto a rock, and half onto the karnayim. And after he threw it out, the one on the sela, on the rock next to the Kohen, would turn into white. And we learned that from the Pasuk, Kashela Yalbinu. Like it should be like white as snow. We'll stop here. As always, comments or questions, feel free to contact me. rspoto@gmail.com. We'll dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.